I think this is one of the smaller committees we have.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Nobody shows up to this one. You guys do. Good morning. Welcome to the Finance and Admin Building Committee. It is January 16th, 2024. Present today are Finance Officer Chandra Phillips, myself, Councilman Clunt, and Councilman Clay. Chandra has a 7-point agenda. I'll let you roll.
So the first one is we have officially been given notice. Hi.
Hello, Dave.
Over there. We've officially been given notice of cancellation of lease for room 117, which is Department of Labor. Some of you may have seen it's been advertised in the newspapers all around. They are closing 5 different offices across the state and not replacing them. Winter happened to be one of those lucky 5. So that's where we're at with it. They're giving us until the end of May. They'll continue to pay their lease. But with that, there is another department out of Pierre that is looking to rent. They have a local person that is currently working from home that they'd like to put in an office. So we are trying to work something out between the 3 different rooms that we would have available. They are very interested in room 117 because it is state furniture, so they might just be able to keep the furniture that's in there and potentially put 2 different offices in that room. Otherwise, they've looked at 119 and 111 as well. So just giving you guys that notification. We will skip down to the second to last one. Since Dave is here, I wasn't sure if he was gonna make it or not. He has one of those schedules, it depends on what's in the air. So there is in your packet a new lease agreement with Grossenberg's. So there's 2 pages. First one has Grossenberg's letterhead, the second one is the lease form. We have a current lease with Grossenberg's for the airport or for any city department to utilize a tractor, but that tractor in particular has wide wheels, too wide to get the airport or the airplanes in and out safely, or you explain.
So we currently have a tractor that was probably leased to the county for something for mowing, and the tire was very wide, so I called Jeff and said, hey, any chance you guys could run these tires in because it won't work on our blower the way it's set up. And he said, if you can just talk to the city and have them sign a new lease, I'll just switch out that tractor and give you a different tractor. It already has the wheels in, and it's actually gonna be, they do it $25 an hour, or I think it is, but no.
25 cents per
25
horsepower
cents.
per hour.
For horsepower. So it's actually a 175 horse tractor now, and you give us a 140 horse tractor, so it's actually gonna be a little less money per hour. This year, we didn't end up with any big airplanes that I couldn't move some other way, so we utilized it very, very little. So the lease on that's gonna be very minimal currently. So it's mostly just a matter of switching tractors.
I'm fine with it, yeah.
Good.
As long as the 140 is gonna run your blower,
Yeah.
it should.
Yeah, it's running now on a 120 horse tractor. The reason I would like to have that capability is the International, it doesn't have a low enough rear gear to actually blow, so you're slipping the clutch the whole time.
Yep.
And this John Deere will get down to where it would actually work much better on the blower.
Is it somewhat equivalent hours that are on the tractor? I mean, we're not getting some old,
It's brand new,
oh, okay, the one we're getting,
yeah.
okay.
It doesn't have any hours.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
something 10,000 hours and we have repair bills switching out.
Now, it's a 6140M
Oh, yeah.
that he's talking about switching out.
Yep. I'm fine with that.
No smoking in there. They got one heck of a time, I'm just saying.
I don't smoke.
I believe it's a policy of the city of
Is that-
Winter, we don't smoke in our vehicles.
No. Dave, we don't have loaders on them, do they?
This one does not currently.
Yeah.
It's set up to take a loader if it wanted to. So if the city needed it for other reasons,
They could buy or lease, yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Something else, since Dave's here, that Dave and I have talked about, we are going to do some research into the revenue-producing hangar. With it being utilized more, it is costing more. Weird how that works. So we're gonna kind of compare my notes with repairs and maintenance and what Dave is charging for in and out in there, and kind of make sure that we're working together on that to make sure that everything is correct. Because as you saw last year with his budget, the propane was extremely high, and I'm sure it's not cheap this month. And then also, we had a motor break, we just had some chains that we had to replace on the door, so on a 12-year-old building or facility, it's approximately 12 years old, right?
More
10?
than that.
Oh, is it more? Okay, so,
Wait a minute, 20.
that could be, yeah. So it's, I mean, it's not bad that we went that long, but now we're starting to see some repairs as it's getting used more. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to date on that too.
So, I mean, do you think our original agreement with Guardian wasn't high enough, or what?
We don't know. So, and that's one thing that I don't know if you've done it before, Dave, or not. So Dave sets the prices for rental, and we don't, that's him and them. He writes us a check for our 2/3 of it. So it's one of those things that we feel that would be good for both of us to sit down. I've got the expenses that we are putting in there and all the utilities and everything. And not that he doesn't have access to that, he does, but, break it down specifically per that particular building, would be something that would take two of us working together, and so,
We just need to look at what's coming in and what's going out and make sure that it's cash flowing, because, you know, the major reason that the propane is that much higher is because the doors open and shut all the time, and it cools off really quickly with a 60-foot door.
Yep.
So if we need to adjust that, maybe even with a fuel charge or surcharge, or just tell them, hey, we're not quite getting there, we need to change this. That was my thought on the deal.
Yep, okay.
We just look at where we are and make sure that we're cash flowing.
we don't wanna start calling it the expense producing hangar.
Right. Right, it needs to make some money.
Yeah. Yes.
There are some other issues that we've talked about over the years, and one would be the roof of the, and we don't have to deal with this necessarily now, but we do need to spend some money on infrastructure at the airport, just on buildings and, the door for the north door, the overhead door, some of the seals around there need to be replaced and things, and I don't know if that's an overhead door issue that we need to just call them and say, hey, this thing's blowing here and there faster than the heater can keep up, or what we need to do there, but just some infrastructure things that we need to address at some point.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, is it, like, that sounds relatively cheap. I mean, anything big where we have to bid it, or is it stuff you think we can stay under the 3 quotes and just get it done?
The roof of the shop leaks pretty bad. And we need to get some professionals in there to look at it and see what they think it would take. And then go with whether we need to bid it or just hire it done, I'm not sure, but we need to have them look at it and see how they're gonna fix those issues.
Okay. I guess I would say when spring hits and it's not slick up there, let's get somebody up there.
He has one of the smallest, not the smallest, but one of the smallest budgets in the city of Winter, just based on the different way that it operates and different things. So there is cash available for projects like that. We would just need to do the supplemental budget and make sure. And something like, you know, some of these bigger projects we can look into to see if bill money would qualify and different things like that, so.
At some point, I'd like to see the city buy a batwing mower too, that wouldn't have to be used exclusively at the airport. But the grass runway, I'm currently using my mower, but I think at some point in the future, it'd be nice if the city had their own.
Sure.
Um,
And we've got some tax fuel credits out there through the state. I'm wanting to say the last time I received anything, it was $10,000 in tax credits.
More than that now.
Yeah, so that can be used for items that are exclusively left at the airport, so. I don't know, some of those lawnmowers are pretty darn close to $10,000, but,
This will be
What I'm
cool.
talking about would be run behind the tractor, and it's probably about $18,000.
I was gonna say,
okay.
Anything else for me? Any questions?
Good.
I don't have anything, so.
I hit Chandra up the other day to see if I could call her to come and help me. We had a Guardian Blue tires on Sunday on the runway, ended up having to close the runway all day. But she said no.
I did.
I don't know if anybody else.
They didn't have a passenger on board?
No, they were just doing training,
Oh, that's good.
and blew a tire in it.
He mentioned something about midnight. He had some issues, and I'm like, my phone rings. I don't hear it at midnight. Sorry. I'm out.
Yeah, with that cold, the airplane got cold, so then it wouldn't start. So I had to go get my ground power unit out and fire them up.
Jeez.
That's another thing we have talked about. I knew there was something, is the potential for putting a generator at that revenue producing hangar too, because of having Guardian there. One of the issues that we had, which Public Works was able to go down and help. It was a weekend when the door broke. But then when we've had issues in the past of power outages, not being able to get that door up and if there is an emergency. So I think the last time I heard a quote, $5,000-6,000 to have that there. But I don't even think that was hooked up. I think that was just a generator in and of itself, so.
So the big hangar has the capability to put a generator on it, and then all the wiring is in for the disconnect and everything. What they were talking about was actually powering the whole airport
Oh,
for the lights and things, because
sure.
if we can't run the lights, people still can't come and go at the airport. So when, major power outage, they were talking about just sticking the generator to run the whole place then. Troy had found some used ones and priced some new ones. And the electrician says it's not a huge deal to hook it up, it's just a matter of if the council decides at some point that that's the way we want to go, to find the funding and things for it. There are times when it would be advantageous in a power outage situation. We do get utilized frequently by Burke, Gregory, Rosebud. They come to us because we have more capabilities than they do with weather and things. Rosebud has their own weather now, but they have other limitations. So a lot of times their ambulance ends up here, and they fly them out of the winter, actually. Gregory was here twice, I think, in the last week. Or it might have been once Burke and once Gregory. But Gregory doesn't have weather, and their runway doesn't get plowed as wide as the pilots would like sometimes, so they say, well, we'll meet you in winter.
Sure.
So it kind of is more a regional thing than just us.
Awesome. Thank you for coming in,
Yeah,
Dave. I
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll go back to the top then,
That was yes and yes on the lease, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
Show and Fish, our annual report for 2023, $4,000. It is an agreement, so it does need to go before full council. Mayor signs it, a board member signs it, which typically we just have the board president if available. And then the finance officer signs stating it was approved by full council, so need approval to send to full council if you so wish.
Yeah.
Okay.
The encumberment resolution. This is the first time City of Winter has done an encumberment resolution. Encumbering is simply bringing over funds from the previous year's budget that an agreement was issued or a purchase order was issued, but we did not receive in the 2023 year. And so we don't want to mess with 2024's budget. We'd like to use the 23 money because they had the money to pay for it. The general fund, there was 2 items. One was in finance. It was for a printer with Direct Technologies. The second was for law enforcement for the second half of a bill with Cybertech for moving everything over to the halfway house. We probably should stop calling it that. The water fund, which is the highway project, that's what was remaining in water expenses for the highway project. Electric fund had 2 items. The Landis and Gear computer software for 3 months that they didn't bill us until January for October, November, December. But we now have that under control, I do believe, so we get billed monthly. And then $15,951.10 for the highway project. What that is it's a contract that full council agreed to back in 2020, and it was to reinforce the poles along the highway and put plugins on them for our Christmas banners and different banners that we would put out there. And that was the cost share of it. So the state paid for half of it and the city paid for half of it, and this was our cost share on it.
Did you hear, did Troy find anything out?
He
On that.
stated that was something completely different in
Oh.
cabinet.
When did he state that? Not in our last.
At cabinet, at our
Okay,
Friday
all right.
meeting.
Okay.
I
And-
would still ask the question.
Huh?
I would ask the question. Bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, I hear one thing and I don't hear the rest of the story, so.
Sure.
So that's for the Merry Christmas or whatever they hung across? Mm-hmm. And did that get put up this year?
I don't know that.
No.
No, that's what I'm curious about, is why we paid to enforce it and then we don't hang them.
Those lights are dilapidated. You'll be hearing in streets and sanitation, you're gonna have to order a lot of lights if you go back on the highway. A lot of that stuff is,
They haven't been hung since they put the new light poles up that they wanted reinforced.
yeah, that's what ruins them all, said when they just sit there. They get moved around in their shed, they don't get done. Saying that, I don't think they're very well taken care of.
There'd been conversation in, streets and sanitation about hitting Main Street, decorating Main Street hard and not doing the banners across. They had reinforced those poles, so if they did wanna go across, the Public Works Director anyway specifically stated that it's a pain putting those across, their guys and stress on the poles and whatever. He would prefer not to go on the 4 lanes with the banners across and just hit Main Street, decorate Main Street hard, so.
And that's fine, but those discussions, the same public works director, same light department, was here when we chose to pay for more to reinforce these poles. It's another one of them situations that after you approve something, then the rest of the story comes out. And it just, that's a complete waste of money. What is it? How much did we spend? Is that the $15,000, $16,000? I mean, if you don't want to use them anymore, say it when we're doing this budget set.
Apparently that was in 2020.
He was here.
So, yeah. I'm not defending anything, but things change, thoughts change, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, yeah, they're planning on it, now they're like, I don't know. In my opinion, it's an operational decision, so I don't know what kind of control we have over that.
It's just frustrating to budget for stuff and then it don't get used.
I agree, Austin, I do, Our authority or in our control is whether we are going to fund it or not, with our thoughts at that time, and So we keep
it
that in
might be a
mind.
pain in the butt. But so is getting out of bed every morning.
Mm-hmm.
The city council and the mayor have the authority to make it happen.
I am sure if the mayor instructed to be done, it would be done. It is not our call.
It's not the end of the world. It's $16,000 that was wasted.
No.
Let's move on.
The final one is the sewer fund, and that's what's remaining in expenses for the highway project. The next one is, you'll see pictures, there's a police report, and I have an email back from our street superintendent. Someone moving snow hit our street signs, kind of did a number on them. Nobody knows who it was, there are no cameras. Ultimately, I'm asking if we can send it to full council to wipe this bill. We have no one to bill it to. According to the email I received, the sign was like that when we plowed that morning, not sure what happened from the street superintendent. And the emails were sent back and forth between street superintendent and the public works director and myself, and that was the answer I received.
So this process, if there's a police report, then obviously we go after it. At the end of the year, there will be a whole list of, I'm sure, several more items that are replaced that were damaged. Instead of doing this all at once, I mean.
We can do it as a once-a-year
his
thing,
job
that's
is
fine.
just to get that thing replaced and then make a list of that. And at the end of the year, if that's all stuff that was damaged, council needs to be made aware of it. In just one motion, they can take a look in an incident. We don't have to do this on a case-by-case item.
Yep, absolutely, that's perfectly fine.
I do like that there was a police report and we have we see that it was handled.
The moral of the story is, if you damage city property, don't notify the police, right?
Well,
And make sure nobody saw that.
Yeah.
usually there's a camera somewhere that somebody doesn't know about, and you can usually find something off of someone's camera if they allow you access to it, but. Final item, and we started this 2 weeks ago. I did a ton of research last week. Ultimately, there's some things that came up with our payroll with our federal labor standard laws that we're required to follow, and so I had to call multiple cities, get some examples, get some information, and while I was on the phone with them, asked a lot of questions, rather than calling them back in a week or whatever. So this tuition reimbursement policy, this one came, or was the one that has the city of Winter on it, ultimately came from the city of Yankton, and then Mr. Jensen and I tweaked it for city of Winter. It has not changed since the last time you guys looked at it. Then there are two other forms on there, below it. One is, both of these came from Spearfish, but other cities have them because the same company helped them create them. So it's just Spearfish had one that was readily available for me to print when I needed it. So the first is the educational loan application. Ultimately, they have a policy that I didn't have access to, but very similar to what Yankton's was. They only do this for current employees, and they don't just pay it. They pay for your school and you will pay them back. It's just a loan, interest-free loan.
It's not interest-free, 1%.
Sorry, 1%. That's almost interest-free compared to some of the loans you get right now. But, so it's something else that's available, but again, only to current employees. Obviously, the more knowledge your employees have, the better the city is too. It is very specific to, has to be something that has to do with their job. If, as the example was used last time, I wouldn't let someone from the finance office go to school for 8 months for welding. Wouldn't do me any good, wouldn't do the city any good necessarily as far as the finance office goes. So, just another example. The next one is the recruitment incentive program. This is something, and again, one of the hard things right now with the city of Winter, a lot of the cities that we compare to are city manager form of governments. And there's a lot of difference between a city manager form of government and a aldermanic form of government. So you'll see a lot of these policies we would have to edit in order to make them to what ours is. Full council would have to approve. You don't just have a city manager that can approve them type of deal. But what this does is it's very similar to what the mayor's brought up before. Difficult to fill positions, editing what the sign-on bonus is, and it's only specific to those difficult to fill positions. Editing what the referral bonus is for those difficult to fill positions. And ultimately, you have to go through and you have to do this application per department that's having those difficult to fill positions. And decide what it is that you're looking for. If it's, you're wanting a $2,000 sign-on bonus rather than a $1,000, you would have to request that, and then full council would need to approve at that point in time. We can make this however works for the city of Winter. That's just how this one is right here. City manager has to approve outside of what and actually I would say in our case, because there is a policy that states $1,000, yes, it does have to be full council approval because you're going above and beyond what the policy is, same as your starting wage situation. So there are some other recruitment options out there that other cities are utilizing. We're not the only ones that struggle. Dispatch centers across the state are struggling. Police departments are struggling big time. We are the only city that has a corrections department, or a large corrections department. Some of them have overnight stays or 24/7, but 24/7 stays, excuse me. So just some more things for you to look at and ponder on. Obviously don't need any answers today, but it was just some more things that I had found. There will be some policy changes coming that we're gonna be asking for on our FSLA stuff. We're asking for them because, well, the federal government is telling us we need to do it. I think when we first started with ExecuTime, I notified council at that time we were learning there were a lot of things that weren't necessarily being done, not wrong, but not correct. So there's been a huge learning curve for us. And one of the reasons we struggle with some of these items in ExecuTime is because ExecuTime couldn't build them the way we were asking, because ultimately they didn't feel ethically they could build them the way we were asking. So my goal, cross my fingers, is that Madison has it correct. They use ExecuTime. They have a lot of the same features that we do throughout our city. So my goal is they've got the formula in there, and we'll just say ExecuTime, steal Madison's formula, bring it over to Winter. I understand it's not gonna be that simple, but that is my hopefulness. Part of it too is what we call things. For 30 years, we've called it holiday overtime. Overtime is not the correct term. It's holiday premium pay or holiday time and a half. So if you work on a holiday, you get the 8-hour holiday pay, plus you get time and a half for any hours you worked. But calling it overtime was creating issues with the 40 or 80 hours a week type of situation. So that's one of them that we're gonna have to change what it says in the policy to fit what is correct type of deal, so. It was very interesting. I feel like I went through 6 months' worth of schooling and in 1 week's worth of time, just learning all the different things and talking to the different people that are on some national boards and state boards, and FSLA is not something to mess with. If anyone ever turns you in, it's a $10,000 fine per incident for the city, so it's not a cheap thing. But if we recognize where there's errors and fix them, that's what's important, so. Questions on that?
I was looking at claims and we're still using Lori's card.
That card, actually, all Wells Fargo cards will be going away. We entered into a contract with First Interstate, First Interstate, several months ago. There was a complication after we entered into it, and they said, nope, you have to have a deposit with our bank. We said, okay, we're not gonna do it. Came back and said, okay, we really want City of Winters business. We're not gonna make you put a deposit down. You can just have the cards. So we just received those cards in the mail 2 weeks ago. I'm waiting for a login so that I can activate them all, which comes through the mail as well. And with the weather that we've been having, the mail has been insanely slow. So as soon as I get that, then all Wells Fargo cards will be canceled. So we did wait to change the name on there because it's like a month-long process, just because we knew that this change was coming. So I thank you for bringing that up. I'd meant to have that conversation with you because you'd asked me about it before, so. The correction wages that is on the agenda tonight. That is because the original list that you were given at the last meeting forgot to include that 25-cent raise that council had approved the meeting before for those 3 grandfathered employees. So they were paid correctly, it's just when we listed them to council for the paper, we listed them incorrectly, so now we want to get them in the minutes correctly.
Okay, thank you. I'd started looking through that, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it
sense.
out. It says see attachment, but the attachment didn't show changes, so I didn't know.
None was highlighted.
You are correct, it did
Yeah.
not, so I apologize for that. It's 25 cents more, but I could get that other list if that would be helpful.
It's fine, I just didn't know what was going on.
Yep, exactly 25 cents. All 3 employees were notified that they would see this, so that they weren't alarmed, and explained the payroll process and everything, so.
Can you email us a list of, the, whatever you call the yearly donations that people ask for? What we budgeted for in
Yeah.
'24?
Yep, you'll have your first one tonight.
Yeah.
Is what I provide to you in there, because that just shows you what was budgeted for that? Or do you want more information than that?
I just want what's budgeted, so when people come and ask, I wanna see if it's what they asked for last year, and,
Sure. Yep,
or, I don't need last year's, I just need to know what we budgeted
What
for.
we have
No.
budgeted for
Yep,
when they
understood.
request.
If there's a list of what they asked for and what we budgeted, in case there's a discrepancy, but I think we usually give what they ask for.
If they request what we budgeted for.
Yeah, usually. There are a couple that we don't, but
yep, I can get that list.
it's, on those particular ones is much more than the $500 or $1,000 that people are asking for. They're much higher.